Who are you truly looking at when you gaze upon those you claim to love, or those you profess to detest? You believe you see them with absolute clarity, yet you are utterly blind to the fact that your perception is a carefully constructed theater of your own making. You spend your entire life reacting to a ghost, an image painted entirely by your own psychological needs, expecting a living, breathing human being to conform to a canvas they never volunteered to fill. The discomfort you feel right now is the sudden, violent shattering of that illusion, the realization that your continuous disappointment in others is not a reflection of their failure, but the inevitable collapse of your own refusal to see reality. You have built a fortress of expectations, and inside it, you are starving for genuine connection because you are too terrified to encounter an actual human soul. This tension you carry, this perpetual sense of betrayal and exhaustion in your relationships, is the precise friction of your ego rubbing against the jagged edges of truth. You are caught in an exhausting internal crisis. You demand that the world change so that you may remain comfortable, while your unconscious mind desperately tries to wake you up through the very people who trigger you the most. The promise of this reflection is not a soothing balm, it is a difficult, necessary surgery. We are going to strip away the comforting lies you tell yourself about empathy and understanding, and instead, confront the raw, unvarnished truth of what happens when you finally stop forcing people to be characters in your personal drama. Prepare yourself, for to accept someone as they truly are requires you to first sacrifice the neatly ordered fiction you have lived in for years. 1. The anatomy of your projection. You do not see the world as it is, you see it as you are, casting your internal theater onto every person who crosses your path. When someone's behavior infuriates you beyond reason, your immediate reaction is to judge their character, completely unaware that your rage is a flashlight illuminating your own hidden depths. This is the mechanism of projection, a psychological defense where the ego unloads its own unacknowledged qualities onto an external target because looking inward is far too painful. You believe you are reacting to their flaws, but you are actually reacting to the parts of yourself that you have locked away in the dark. The person before you is merely a mirror, and your intense emotional reaction is the sound of your own buried truths screaming for recognition. Consider the moments where you felt utterly betrayed by someone's selfishness or coldness. Your immediate instinct was to play the victim, to weep over their lack of awareness, but let us look closer at the psychic economy at play. Why did their coldness break you so completely? It is because they acted out the very boundaries, or the very ruthlessness, that you desperately wish you could express but have forbidden yourself from doing. You have built a persona of the selfless giver, and because you deny your own healthy selfishness, anyone who embodies it becomes a monster in your eyes. This is not moral superiority, it is psychological cowardice. You hate them because they are free to be what you are too afraid to acknowledge within your own nature. The ego cannot tolerate the existence of its own dark twin, so it forces you into a state of perpetual warfare with the outside world. You look at your partner, your friends, your colleagues, and you unconsciously demand that they carry the weight of your unlived life. If you are terrified of your own vulnerability, you will despise anyone who shows weakness, labeling them as pathetic to keep your own fragility at bay. If you are blind to your own capacity for malice, you will see predators everywhere, walking through life with the hypervigilance of a permanent victim. You are trapped in a self-made hall of mirrors, fighting shadows that possess your own face, completely exhausted by a battle that exists entirely within the boundaries of your own mind. The breaking point occurs when you realize that this constant cycle of resentment is entirely sustained by your own refusal to look down into the abyss of your own psyche. You have spent years trying to fix, change, or condemn the people around you, treating them as projects rather than independent human beings. This is a profound violation of their reality, an attempt to colonize their soul to serve your own emotional stability. When you finally grasp this, the illusion of your innocence dissolves. You are no longer the innocent bystander wounded by a cruel world, you are the architect of your own isolation, using the people you claim to care about as mere screens to shield yourself from the agonizing sight of your own unintegrated shadow. 2. The heavy burden of the shadow. To truly accept someone as they are, you must first cross the threshold into your own shadow, that hidden reservoir of everything you consider unacceptable, shameful, or evil about yourself. You cannot extend genuine acceptance to another human being when you are locked in a civil war against your own instincts. The shadow is not a metaphorical concept, it is a living, breathing psychological reality that dictates your behavior through your sudden outbursts of judgment, your bitter envy, and your irrational hatreds. Every time you say, "I could never be like that," you are pointing directly at the exact place where your shadow is most active, tightly coiled and waiting for an opportunity to slip out disguised as moral righteousness. Look at the people who irritate you the most: the loud, the arrogant, the weak, the fiercely independent. Your irritation is the precise measure of your own self-repression. If you were truly at peace with your own capacity for arrogance, a boastful person would merely be an interesting specimen, not a source of visceral disgust. But because you have suppressed your own need for recognition, their behavior acts as a violent intrusion into your fragile psychic order. You are holding down a beach ball underwater, using immense psychological energy to keep your own dark impulses hidden, and their presence threatens to let that ball pop to the surface. Your anger is a desperate attempt to suppress them so you don't have to face the suppression within yourself. This internal suppression creates a profound spiritual blindness. You walk through life demanding that others be flawless, predictable, and saintly, because you are running a tyrannical dictatorship within your own mind, demanding the same impossible perfection from yourself. You cannot forgive their lapses in judgment, their moments of cruelty, or their ordinary human weaknesses because you have never extended that forgiveness to the frightened, flawed child hiding beneath your own adult persona. You have mistaken your psychological rigidity for virtue. The truth is much colder. You are terrified that if you accept their darkness, you will have to validate the existence of your own, and that is a confrontation your ego is not yet strong enough to survive. The breakthrough arrives when you stop looking at the other person's flaws as an attack on your well-being and begin to see them as a diagnostic map of your own soul. The moment you catch yourself mid-judgment and ask, "Where does this live in me?" the entire dynamic shifts. You begin to see that the person you thought was ruining your life is actually offering you a profound gift, the opportunity to reclaim a piece of your disowned self. This is a painful, humbling descent. It forces you to admit that you are capable of the same pettiness, the same deceit, and the same coldness that you have condemned in others. Only when you have looked upon your own internal monstrosity can you look at another person's darkness without blinking, and without the need to destroy them for it. 3. The collapse of the idealized ideal. We enter relationships not to see the other person, but to find a savior who will cure our existential loneliness and heal our childhood wounds. You unconsciously create an idealized image, an imago, and drape it over your partner like a shroud, demanding that they breathe, speak, and love in exact accordance with this phantom. In the beginning, during the intoxication of projection, they seem to fit the mold perfectly. You believe you have found the missing piece of your puzzle. But this is not love, it is a profound form of psychological exploitation. You are using another human being as an emotional drug, demanding that they remain static and perfect just to keep your deep-seated anxieties at bay. The tragedy begins when the human being inevitably tears through the fabric of your projection. They forget a significant date, they display an ugly temper, they express a desire that does not include you, or they simply fail to understand your unexpressed needs. In that moment, your ideal collapses, and your love instantly sours into bitter resentment. You feel betrayed, weeping over how much they have changed, when the reality is that they have not changed at all, they have simply committed the crime of being real. You are punishing them for failing to be the God you demanded they be, refusing to see that your expectation was an act of psychological violence disguised as romantic devotion. This resentment is the desperate tantrum of an ego that refuses to grow up. You are demanding that your partner act as the perfect parent you never had, providing unconditional validation and constant safety. When they reveal their own limitations, their own exhaustion, and their own neuroses, you interpret it as a personal rejection. You cannot see that they are drowning in their own psychological battles, you only care that their drowning is making waves that disturb your boat. This is the ultimate superficiality of the romantic myth. It trains us to love an illusion and to despise the reality that replaces it, leaving us perpetually lonely in a crowded room. The illusion breaks when you realize that the death of the ideal is the only way true relationship can begin. The grief you feel when someone disappoints you is actually the funeral of your projection. It is a painful but holy moment. If you can endure the agony of losing the illusion, you are left with something infinitely more valuable, the actual, flawed, complex human being sitting across from you. To accept them means to stop mourning the God that never existed and to start respecting the human being who does. It means acknowledging that they do not exist to complete you, to heal you, or to make your life easy. They exist for their own purpose, and their reality is entirely independent of your desires. 4. The illusion of control and the myth of fixing. Why do you possess such a frantic, obsessive desire to change the people around you? You tell yourself it is out of love, that you only want what is best for them, that you are trying to help them reach their potential. Let us strip away this layer of self-righteous deception. Your obsession with fixing others is a manipulative tactic designed to give you a sense of control over an unpredictable universe. It is far easier to focus your energy on managing someone else's life, analyzing their flaws, and mapping out their healing journey than it is to turn that clinical gaze inward and address the chaotic wilderness of your own soul. You are using their brokenness as a shield to avoid your own. When you attempt to fix someone, you are subtly communicating that they are not enough as they are, establishing a hierarchy where you are the enlightened guide and they are the damaged patient. This dynamic kills genuine intimacy. It replaces the raw equality of connection with a clinical power struggle. You become addicted to their dependence on you, because as long as they are broken, you are safe from ever being truly seen or challenged by them. You have created a psychological contract where their ongoing dysfunction guarantees your internal security. It is a deeply neurotic arrangement that masquerades as codependent compassion. Consider the immense exhaustion you carry from this endeavor. You spend your nights worrying about their choices, analyzing their behavior, and playing out imaginary arguments in your head. This anxiety is the psychic cost of your hubris. You are acting under the delusion that you possess the power to alter the trajectory of another person's individuation process, their unique journey toward wholeness. You cannot. A person's suffering is often the very fire required to burn away their false self, and by constantly intervening, you are stealing the cross they need to carry. You are delaying their awakening because you cannot tolerate the discomfort of watching them struggle. The shift in your perception happens when you realize that your desire to fix others is a confession of your own helplessness. You cannot control your own chaotic emotions, you cannot predict your own future, so you attempt to colonize the behavioral patterns of those around you to create an illusion of safety. True acceptance is the radical act of abdication. It requires you to lay down your tools, silence your unsolicited advice, and step off the pedestal of the fixer. You must allow people the dignity of their own suffering, their own mistakes, and their own slow, agonizing pace of growth. When you stop trying to change them, you are finally forced to look at the empty space within yourself that you were trying to fill with their reform. 5. The terror of the objective other. There is a profound, existential terror in realizing that the person sleeping next to you, or the friend you have known for a decade, is an entirely separate, objective reality. They possess an internal landscape that you will never fully map, thoughts they will never share, impulses you would find shocking, and a history that belongs entirely to them. Your ego desperately wants to believe that you know them completely, because predictability brings comfort. To admit that they are fundamentally mysterious, that they are an other, who cannot be fully possessed or known, sends a shudder of insecurity through your entire psychological structure. This terror drives us to reduce people to comfortable, flat caricatures. We label them, the dependable one, the emotional one, the cynical one. We compress their vast, multidimensional humanity into a small, easily digestible box so that we can interact with the box rather than the volatile reality inside. When they step outside of that box, when the dependable one acts recklessly, or the cynical one weeps openly, we experience a sense of panic. We feel as though the ground beneath our feet is shaking, because if they are not who we thought they were, then the world is no longer safe, and our calculations have failed. To accept someone means to tolerate this existential vertigo. It means standing before another human being and acknowledging that they do not belong to you, that they are not an extension of your ego, and that they possess the absolute freedom to surprise, disappoint, or leave you. This is where real love parts ways with codependency. Codependency demands that the other person remains small and predictable so that you can feel secure. Genuine acceptance looks at the vast, wild, unpredictable landscape of the other person's soul and says, I see that you are a universe unto yourself, and I choose to stand here in the presence of that mystery without needing to tame it. When this truth lands, it shatters your demanding entitlement. You stop treating the other person as an appliance that is supposed to function for your convenience. You realize that their presence in your life is not a given, it is a daily choice made by an independent agent. This realization is incredibly uncomfortable because it strips away your armor of control, leaving you completely exposed to the reality of choice and vulnerability. Yet, it is only in this exposure that genuine gratitude can exist. You can only truly appreciate someone when you realize they are completely free to be someone else entirely, yet they are standing before you in this moment, in all their flawed, unmanageable reality. 6. The paradox of love and resentment. You believe that love and resentment are polar opposites, that if you truly love someone, you should not harbor bitterness toward them. This is a naive, superficial understanding of human psychology. In the deeper layers of the psyche, love and hate are intimately intertwined, feeding off the same psychic energy. The deeper you invest in someone, the more violently your ego will react when they fail to protect your vulnerabilities. True acceptance does not mean the eradication of resentment, it means having the psychological maturity to hold both love and anger in your consciousness at the same time, without allowing one to destroy the other. When you pretend that your resentment does not exist, when you force a smile and swallow your irritation to maintain the illusion of a harmonious relationship, you are feeding the shadow. That unexpressed bitterness doesn't vanish, it goes underground, fermenting into passive-aggressive behavior, sudden sarcastic remarks, or an unexplained emotional withdrawal. You think you are being patient and loving, but you are actually poisoning the relationship from the inside out. You are refusing to accept the reality of your own anger, and in doing so, you are creating a false relationship built on a foundation of polite lies. The human psyche is inherently ambivalent. We desire closeness, yet we fear being swallowed up, we want freedom, yet we crave security. The people we love are the ones who inevitably frustrate these competing desires. They come too close when we want space, they look away when we seek validation. This constant friction produces resentment as a natural byproduct of intimacy. To accept someone as they are means accepting this messy, cyclical nature of human connection. It means understanding that there will be days when their habits disgust you, when their silence infuriates you, and when their very existence feels like an inconvenience to your ego. The shift into maturity occurs when you stop viewing your resentment as evidence that the relationship is broken, and start viewing it as a natural tax on intimacy. You stop demanding a relationship that is a permanent sanctuary of positive emotion. You allow your partner to be a source of frustration, recognizing that their ability to anger you is proof that they are a real person impacting your real psyche, not a bloodless ghost designed to please you. When you can look at someone and say, "You irritate me deeply, you disrupt my peace, and yet I choose to hold space for your existence alongside my own," you have transitioned from the fragile romance of a child to the enduring love of an adult. 7. The sacrifice of the psychological child. To accept people as they really are, you must perform a funeral for your childhood. Most of our adult relational conflicts are simply the ghost of the inner child crying out for the perfect parents it never received. You look at your boss, your spouse, or your friends through the eyes of a wounded 10-year-old, demanding that they provide the absolute safety, the undivided attention, and the flawless validation that your actual parents failed to deliver. As long as you remain trapped in this childish regression, you will never see the people in your life as they truly are, you will only see them as incompetent caretakers who are failing to meet your historical needs. This is the hard truth your ego wants to avoid. No one in your current life is responsible for healing your childhood wounds. No amount of devotion from your partner can undo the neglect of your past, no amount of praise from your boss can fill the void left by an absent father. When you demand that your current relationships fix your history, you are placing a catastrophic weight upon them that no human being can bear. You are asking them to pay a debt they do not owe, and when they inevitably fail, your childish regression deepens into bitter outrage, perpetuating the exact cycle of abandonment you are trying to escape. Growing up requires the painful sacrifice of this demanding child within you. It means consciously turning inward and realizing that you must become the parent to your own wounded psyche. You must look at that empty, aching space within yourself and stop looking outside for someone to fill it. This is a lonely, agonizing transition. It feels like a second abandonment, but it is actually the birth of true psychological independence. When you stop looking to others to provide your fundamental sense of worth and security, you stop holding them hostage to your emotional demands. The moment you sacrifice the child's demand for absolute nurturing, a profound clarity takes place. You look at your parents, not as the gods who failed you, but as ordinary, limited human beings who were likely broken by their own histories. You look at your partner, not as a savior designed to rescue you from your loneliness, but as a fellow traveler walking through the dark, carrying their own heavy luggage. You free them from the impossible task of completing you, and in doing so, you finally allow them the space to be human. You stop punishing them for not being able to cure your past, and you begin the real work of meeting them in the present. 8. The threshold of individuation. The ultimate goal of human life is individuation, the process of becoming the unique, whole individual you were always meant to be, stripped of your social masks and defensive illusions. But here is the profound paradox: you cannot individuate in isolation, hiding in a cave away from the world. Your individuation is entirely dependent on your willingness to collide with the raw reality of the objective world, and most specifically, with the objective reality of other people. The day you accept who people really are is the exact day your true individuation begins, because it marks the definitive end of your ego's dictatorial control over your perception. When you step across this threshold, you enter a state of radical psychological sobriety. You no longer walk through life with the childish expectation that the universe should bend to your comfort, or that people should conform to your moral preferences. You look at the narcissist, the coward, the saint, the fool, and the genius, and you see them all as necessary, living expressions of the vast, collective human psyche. You realize that their path is not your path, their consciousness is not your consciousness, and you have no right to interfere with their destiny. You pull back your projections, roll up your screens, and stand naked in a world that is completely outside of your control. This brings a profound, quiet stillness to your soul. The constant, draining noise of your judgment falls silent. You no longer waste your finite psychic energy trying to rewrite other people's scripts, arguing with their limitations, or weeping over their choices. You look at reality with open eyes, accepting its light and its terrifying darkness without blinking. This is not passive resignation, it is the ultimate gathering of your psychological power. By taking back your projections from everyone else, you finally inherit the full, concentrated mass of your own soul, ready to face the only psychological task that actually matters, the integration and transformation of yourself. The realization we have reached today is a heavy, isolating truth, yet it is the only foundation upon which a genuine life can be constructed. You have looked into the mirror of your relationships and seen that the monsters and angels you fought out there were merely the scattered fragments of your own unmapped psyche. The comfortable illusion that your suffering was caused by the failures of others has dissolved, leaving you with the cold, undeniable responsibility for your own emotional kingdom. You are no longer permitted the luxury of blind resentment, you have seen the machinery of your own projections, and you cannot unsee it. Step forward into this discomfort, for it is the shaking ground that precedes the awakening of your true self. If these words have broken through your defenses and forced you to look at what you have spent a lifetime avoiding, it is a sign that your ego is finally ready to yield to a deeper truth. Do not let this moment pass back into the comfortable sleep of your old illusions. If you have found the rare courage to stand in this psychological fire, click the link to join our circle and subscribe to this channel, ensuring you do not drift back into the shadows of unconsciousness. I challenge you to go below, into the comments, and write down the one illusion about someone in your life that you are committing to sacrifice today. Speak it clearly, name the projection you have cast upon them, and let us see who among us possesses the strength to look past the comforting ghost and accept the difficult, beautiful reality of the human being standing right in front of them.